Well, well, well. Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It is amazing to be able to host another show with our family. And thank you for popping on and seeing our second channel because our first channel is still banned for another
Week.
week and a half. You never know about these YouTube
Right.
boob tube things. So. And I would like to welcome back Juan O Savin. Juan, it is wonderful to have you live with us again today. And thank you so much for
Of
taking
course.
time out of your day to be able to come here and, help us.
It's very fun. Well, I don't know. You guys might be beyond help.
Some days I wonder.
Right?
Yeah, but of course, since I'm probably out in that same category as far as some people are concerned, at least I'll have good company. So yeah, let's join forces, and maybe three beyond help actually puts us within help's range, because what comes around goes around more than once.
That's
Right.
very true.
Right. So what do we got going on?
Oh, by the way, in Texas, they just got the ruling handed down that these social media companies cannot discriminate on the subject matter and shut people down for content that they don't like, politically incorrect speech and that sort of thing. And so Ken Paxton, the Attorney General out of Texas, he filed that suit sometime back, lost in the district court. It was appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court, and we just got the ruling down literally. I believe it came out, was posted last night, and people have been talking about it all day today. And so that'll go to the Supreme Court, and that will, have to do with, are they going to be allowed to stop us from posting content that they decide is doesn't meet their guidelines because it's politically incorrect or something like that. So this is shaping up to be a big fight. And then part of the rest of it is the monetization and whether or not these people that have been damaged in this way have grounds, to sue for lost revenue and damages and things like that. So there's a lot of aspects to that that are going to play out over the next weeks and months and years, and should be an interesting fight. But they lost a big one. Fifth Circuit is very conservative, and where a number of these cases, there was another one involving the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, which sounds really important and official, just like the Federal Reserve. Even the IRS. Most people don't realize the Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express. And neither is the Securities and Exchange Commission on the stock trades and transactions. It's a private group. Okay? And oh, by the way, courts have found, U.S. courts have found that the IRS is a Puerto Rican corporation.
I remember hearing about that too.
And they found that. They actually admitted it, huh?
Well, no, it's a Puerto Rican corporation. What the fuck? It's the same thing as the Federal Reserve. They're like blocks apart in Puerto Rico.
That's a bunch.
They were actually incorporated in the Philippines, and then the Philippines had some legal changes, and so they ran over to Puerto Rico so that they could continue with their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and by the way, you want to talk about the IRS? Okay, so where in the every law, all the things you have to have, they have to be in the Federal Registry. So you go and you open up the Federal Registry, all the things you're supposed to be, there's no IRS.
Yeah.
So what's the deal? And oh no, but I've been in IRS court. Oh yeah? Okay, yeah. It's an administrative court. They can't talk about the Constitution there. Why? because an administrative court is literally just a court of record. All they are, it's the county clerk's office. It's some clerk. They write down, okay, here's what they said, here's what they said, here's what they said. When you put yourself under the jurisdiction of an IRS court, you've put yourself in a little club, and then you've agreed to whatever they decide. It's just like when you sign your tax return. You sign under penalty of law. So you're forced, compelled to sign your rights away. You become a witness against yourself.
Wow.
So the long and short of it is that, people have gone to court, they've lost. But part of the issue is the Supreme Court has not taken on a lot of these cases because they didn't want to codify certain things. There's been this argument for years whether or not they were kind of in on the scam. There's sins of commission, things that you do, and there's sins of omission, things that you fail to do. And so the Supreme Court's been dancing around and missing a lot of stuff. When we have done stuff, a lot of times the record is kind of foggy. You gotta, what did they say? And for anybody that thinks, oh no, it's settled law. So I remind you, every last one of you, a Supreme Court just made a ruling that 50 years ago, a prior court erred in finding that there was a federal authority that could legislate abortion in America, and that it was actually a state right, and returned it back to the states. Courts are not perfect, and the current court found differently than an earlier court, including now SEC, which the Fifth Circuit gave this amazing ruling on the SEC just a few months back. Some pretty good attorneys made a pretty amazing case. And now this one in the same Fifth Circuit concerning social media and their ability to decide what can be posted or limited in posting, who they can kick out, things like that, including banks. Banks have been shutting down people's accounts if they didn't like what they were doing for business, like, selling guns or, certain political things. And so they closed accounts, okay? Because they don't like the way you say things. We don't want you as part of our bank, and they shut you down. And now you got to go find another bank, and then you go to the other banks. Well, actually, they shut you down. We don't want your business either. So you can be closed out of being able to function in a society where these are services that you have to have in order to function. So the long and short of it is that the courts are kind of moving in our favor right now, and things are on the move. Things are changing. So anyway, but I don't want to get you kicked off of your channel here because I don't like the fact that we're talking about this stuff. I was going to talk about like the birds and the bees. No, we can't talk about sex stuff. Well, actually, probably can't. We probably talk about all the sex that we want to talk about 24/7, and they're not going to say it.
That's right.
Okay,
that's right.
Yeah, that's the zone there. And we got sex. Oh yeah, whatever. It could be, cats and dogs living together. Furry cats versus no fur. I just, whatever. But they're not going to care.
We could talk a lot about maps too.
Oh well, yeah.
Minor attracted persons.
Yes. Well, I'm just telling you that they can. We were. In fact, let me just say this: PayPal. PayPal. We've had stuff prepared because PayPal shut down a bunch of stuff that we had going and others had going, and made a huge stink. So. Because they didn't like the content that we were doing on our platform. And so it got shut down. Well, we started looking into it. And found out that, hey, by the way, a lot of the content that they do approve and they monetize has to do with child trafficking.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been holding on that for the time being while we continue to flesh out the details. But it certainly appears to me that the guys that came to me are pretty correct, that they're with full knowledge of what they're doing, allowing transactions that are related to materials, related to pedophilia and child trafficking. So that's okay with them. But then you get into, you know, the politically protected talk. No. You can't say anything about things they don't talk about. So again, you know, a lot of stuff's in the wind. We'll have to see how this continues to flesh out. But the world's changing faster than most people can realize.
It's true. It really is.
So, you know, I mean, the other stuff, I mean, what's the other? We could talk about space aliens, and we'd probably be fine. We could talk about sex between space aliens, and of course, you could have sex between space aliens and humans. You'd probably talk about that. But, you know, beyond that, I don't know what else is left that they'll let us talk about. We talk about cooking. You know, they like their cooking. In fact, they love their spirit cooking. We could probably do talk about spirit cooking, but we couldn't accuse anybody of doing anything beyond just it's just playful art and having a good time. So, you know, we'd be pretty limited there. We can't talk about anything real related to spirit cooking or any of the various players. By the way, you know, Maria Abramovich. She is the artistic, what's the exact term? Artistic director or whatever for Antarctica in the UN. The UN has allowed her to be the artistic ambassador or whatever from the UN to the world or whatever. So I have a question. If Antarctica has an arts director and it's Maria Abramovich, the witch, who's actually a guy, by the way. Okay, so like she's the artistic ambassador person. Who's the actual ambassador from Antarctica? I mean, remember, the U.S. ambassador, where was he on the day of the 2016 election where Hillary lost and Trump won? And by the way, nobody's contesting that, so we can talk about that at this point in time. So where was Lurch? He was in Antarctica. And then 2 weeks later, who else goes down? The guy that was helping with the campaign on Trump, Newt Gingrich, goes to Antarctica. You know, you have a delegation from the not the Catholic, but the other church goes down there, and they have a, you know, delegation goes to Antarctica, holds services, all sorts of things, Coptic church. And so you got all sorts of stuff going down in Antarctica. It's kind of weird. It's not just research in the pure sense of the word. So, you know, who knows what's going on in Antarctica? Something pretty wild.
Yeah.
Somewhere in here I'll do a show on it, but I don't want to do it right now because we have actually for real serious shit going on here. And I want to get through this next few months, let the dust settle a little bit, and then we'll talk about what's going on in Antarctica and why that's relevant. And
Sounds good.
We'll go back in time a little bit. It'll be pretty interesting. So we'll have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing with the reveal that's going to happen in the future. But what's happening right now with everything that's being revealed, it's awesome to see.
Well, I can tell you this: under the covers, when the covers get pulled back, there's a whole bunch of nakedness. So we can talk sex talk now again. These people have all sorts of nakedness under the covers, and it's going to have to be revealed. And Some of it isn't pretty. Okay, there's some of it. I'm sorry, you will want to close your eyes to get in pretty. This geriatric stuff, the people that are under those covers, you didn't want to see that, and you can't unsee some things. Okay, so there's certain names, I won't name them, that we just assume you might want to have your eyes closed. You want to talk about a horror film? When they pull back the covers on what's actually been going on and who's involved and everything else, that's a horror film. Okay, this isn't Hollywood, and there ain't airbrush. You cannot airbrush out what's going on here. It's pretty messy. Some of them probably should wear their diapers to bed.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's pretty damn.
You got a bunch of these guys that have been involved in stuff for all these decades, and they've gotten away with it. Nobody's knowing all the details there in the dark of night, and the light of the day is about to come around the corner, and the world's going to have to be made aware of what they've been doing, and it's pretty nefarious, pretty slimy. So.
Are we looking at kind of a slow pulling of the Band-Aid? Or
No.
are we looking at something that's going to be ripped off pretty soon?
Well, let's put it this way, because I don't want you to get kicked off your channel again. So let me think how I can say this.
Love it.
A couple things. Okay. Let's be very, very alert to the fact that September 23rd, 24th, which when you see two dates beside each other, usually that means evening of and the next morning. So it's a date, but it's a date that transits over midnight. And so when you see that...
Would you repeat that one more time? Two dates next to each other means?
Usually it means
midday.
Something that occurs starting at sunset on one day and ends the next day at sunset, but goes overnight. So when you say 23, 24, it might be a 24-hour period, but it's starting at sunset of the previous day and going to the morning of the next day and into the afternoon. So it's kind of looked at as being, when you say 23, 24, you have date lines, you have stuff that may transit across the planet. And so it may happen in a place where it's still the 23rd, but has an effect someplace that it's already now the 24th.
Okay.
So oftentimes it affects the whole world also. When you transit two dates. And there's data that's out there that seems to indicate we're going to have some kind of fairly significant drama September 23, 24. There's other stuff out there that seems to indicate drama on 10/8. There you're going to want to watch Congress. And then there does appear to be something else that appears to transit 23, 24 October. And there you're going to want to watch military. And then the date that I'm the most concerned about, which is October 29th. And that's a pure guess on my part. I don't think anybody else out there has said that specific date except for me. And I haven't seen anything, but for various ritual reasons, from a historic perspective, and then the fact that certain things have to happen fairly shortly in the political world, that's a date that I'm personally queued up on. I think that's when we have a full stop. Everything freezes in its tracks for 10 days, and while things get reorganized, sorted out, whatever. So, but it's a pure, complete, total guess. So anybody that's, there's no, I don't want anybody saying that I said with absolute certainty that it was going to be a certain way. It's just a guess on my part, but I think there's something up for the 29th.
Okay, got that. Guess.
I wasn't in the 4 o'clock in the morning meeting. I didn't have a vision. I didn't eat chili the night before and have cashed this far. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm just looking at the way things evolve. And but I will say, so I've used this example with a few audiences, but let me say it with your audience also, in case they didn't hear it somewhere else. Those that have heard it, you can go sleep, and it's a bedtime story. In the Spanish bullfighting, these bulls are raised for the bullfight very remotely with the bare minimum of human contact. They're totally wild. And in the Spanish bullfights, the families that raise these bulls are, they get accolades for raising the fiercest, meanest, most unpredictable bulls that you possibly can. They're raised and bred for their meanness, orneriness, viciousness, everything. And so bullfighting is a pretty messy sport. It's actually pretty grotesque, gruesome, whatever. But it is, it relates to the tale of Gilgamesh. And that is in stone writings that have ever been discovered around the world. The oldest stone writing is some tablets that were found that date back, to the Sumerian period and before, and literally, arguably pre-Adamic, pre-Adam. So they're very old, and the language has been deciphered, and these stone tablets relate this story of a god king, god man, who is, there's this bull that falls out of heaven, and it's a raging bull, and it's a vicious, evil, mean, wild bull that fell from heaven, and lands on the earth, and it wants to tear everything apart and break everything and smash everything and all that. So Gilgamesh goes out and does battle with this bull that fell from heaven. And he's not able to defeat it, though he fights it all day. And then he gets help from an assistant and eventually does defeat the bull and kills it. So this is like a very old story. Spanish bullfighting kind of commemorates that whole idea. And so in these arenas that they have for Spanish bullfighting, they're, they got the seats all up the side and all the way around. And it's just a big arena in the middle. And a Spanish bullfight has three parts, and it is a fight to the death. The Spanish bullfight has three parts. The opening, where the matadors, toreadores, the picadors, they come out and they're seen, and they have all this colorful clothing, and the horses have padding on them that help them, so that if the bull hits them, they can be protected by the padding. And then they get the bull in there and parade it around. And the reason that's important is the bull, when, they'll have multiple bulls, usually multiple fights, but they'll get, the bulls will come into the fight, and they'll have their head up, their horns ready to fight. And so, like, Lamborghini is, it's symbology on the cars is this bull, this raging bull, and prancing bull. And so going to the bullfighting. And when the bull comes in, he's very head up, proud, ready to do battle. What they do is the bull outweighs the matador 10-1. And so the matador, they come out, they've got what they call a suit of lights. Those suits cost about, $20,000, $25,000 nowadays. maybe more. And they're all hand woven. There's a couple places that make them. They add all these, little shiny things, and they're intended to be very colorful and eye catching. But they're also kind of cat suits. They're tight because you can't have a bull get caught on part of the suit, flip the matador, kill him, stop, trample him. So they're designed not to have things that'll get caught. And they've got the epaulets on the shoulders, and they're just beautiful. Usually got their hat, and they're all shiny and spectacular and all that. Then in the fight, in the second round, the picadors and the toreadores, they run around and they get the bull, weakened. They'll put hooks and spears into the shoulders and neck of the bull to weaken it and to make it possible even that the matador could go in and do battle with the bull. And so they weaken the shoulder muscles and the neck muscles. And whereas the bull comes into the fight with his head up and horns up and prances around the arena, by the time you're done at the second act, and each act is announced by a trumpet, each stage of the bullfight. As you get into the third part of the bullfight, the matador is out there pretty much by himself with the bull. The bull is weakened. Bulls don't run marathons. They do, spurts, charges, and as they get weaker in the third round, their head goes from being up and the prancing to moving slower. The head's down. They're snorting. They're blowing dust because their nose is right down there in the dust sometimes. And they're mad, but they're also exhausted. They're barely able to function. And by the way, bulls, after they mate, it only takes 30, 40 seconds, and then they're over on the side and they're laid down. They're exhausted. Okay, so we had our sex part of the talk, by the way. So we should be able to keep going now for 5 more minutes because it was talk sex something, and they'll let us talk sex. So and the female, she just wanders off. Okay, well that was interesting. Fine, glad that's over. So anyway, then and the bull snoring. So in the third act, the reason it's important that the bull be exhausted and weakened is because as its head gets lower, its shoulders get less tense and get more relaxed because they're worn down, they're exhausted. And the way that you kill the bull in the bullfight is they take a sword and it's stuck right between the shoulder blades down to the heart. And if the bull's head is up, you can't get the sword in to get the kill shot. So you have to weaken the bull around the shoulders and the neck in order to get the head down far enough to get the kill shot in. What the matador does is he waves the cape in the Tale of Gilgamesh. It was his tunic or coat. And the cape is usually red in order so that you don't see the blood on the cape. It doesn't get the crowd wound up. But the bull is actually colorblind, so he can't tell color. He's just going at the motion and the anger at being wounded and pissed off and around people he doesn't want to be around. There's a lot of people I don't want to be around. And so their eyes are red, they're pissed off, but they're getting exhausted. They just would rather go in the corner almost. They're so enraged, but they're exhausted. In the third round, the matador has to bait and taunt the bull to keep fighting, to keep going. So oftentimes they'll actually get right down on one knee in front of the bull and look the bull in the eyes. Think about that, stare it down. Animals don't like to be, especially wild animals, stared down. That's a fight or flight thing, and they're ready to fight because they, go total defense. So in that fight or flight mode, the matador will get right down in the face of the bull and stare it in the eyes and try to bait the bull to keep charging. Now, in the third round, it's only 15 minutes long. If you get 10 minutes in and the matador hasn't killed the bull yet, then an alarm sounds, a horn sounds. Each round is announced by a trumpet in the bullfight. And that's the warning to the matador that he has to kill the bull. He has 5 minutes. If he doesn't, the bull's allowed to live, and it's considered the bull won the fight. And he gets to go out and be breeding, for the rest of his life. And they want those bulls that can survive because they're meaner, ornery, or bigger. They're considered, the best of the best. So the matador has to continue to taunt and get close to the bull. If the bull can even feel the matador's body as he goes racing through, and the matador's fooling the bull with the magic of the cape, taunting him in, staring him down with his eyes, and then moving the cape in his body just right that the bull thinks he's going to get him and doesn't quite get him. And by the way, oftentimes matadors, many of the most famous matadors died in the ring. It's not like it's a lock. The bulls do win occasionally. They actually have medical teams, surgical teams at the bullfights standing by to do emergency surgery on the matadors to save their life. Oftentimes to get a femoral artery in the legs or something, because the horn of the bull is down so low that if he does catch him, he catches him in the legs, flips him around, and it's very common to get torn up in these arteries in the legs. So, this is not playtime. The matador works very hard to get the bull to charge at him as many times as possible in that third round. That's where the crowd comes in. The crowd has handkerchiefs, and when the matador is doing great, they're waving the handkerchiefs for the matador, like the cape. And if the bull is winning and the matador is not a good matador and he's not challenging the bull and getting the bull to charge, then oftentimes the crowd will turn in charge of the bull. So it's very important that you get the crowd in the game, because even the roar of the crowd continues to get the bull more agitated and to keep him moving. And the bull gets tired, and that loss of strength makes him vulnerable for the kill shot. Now, the reason I say all that, and let's keep it so we can keep your channel up. Right now, a lot of people don't understand what's going on. A certain person is baiting the bullshit out of Congress. Okay? He's waving the mega cape. He's got a sword hidden behind that cape. For the last 6 years, they've been getting weakened with reveals, weakened with new information. Over the last year and a half, all the revelations of what's been going on in a certain season of the year, we're learning how they stole their way into power and held it. So the bullfighter is now beating them, challenging them. Charge me, come on. Getting down on bended knee, looking weak, staring him straight in the eyes, looking vulnerable in that suit of lights glittering away. The crowd is cheering. The more that the bullfighter, the matador, gets right down in his face, takes his hat off and waves it in front of the bull, trying to bait it to make one more charge. That's when the crowd gets in it, because they're so, they know he's taking a risk, a huge risk, getting right there in the bull's face. If the bull begins his charge and the matador doesn't get up and move, get the cape concealing the actual location of his body, that bull could turn his head in a heartbeat, gore him, and he'd be seriously injured or dead. If he doesn't bait the bull doesn't charge. It's not weak enough to take the kill shot. You've got to get in the game. You've got to get your mind into the game. You've got to be totally into that. And when you're in a fight like that, you lose track of time, because you have to have your mind on where that bull's at every instant. It is lethal, lethally dangerous. So the crowd's roaring. You see all the handkerchiefs. It's a spectacle. The depth in the air. If you lose track of where you're at, the bull could get you. He's trying to circle you to get an open shot. And that trumpet comes in the 10-minute alarm, and you have 5 minutes left. That's there for a reason, because you could lose track of where you're at mentally. We're in a season right now where those people that think, well, it's all about 2024. I don't think anything's going to happen here. It's just business as usual. 2020 is over with. That's done. The courts aren't going to cooperate. Well, if you've missed the date for preserving enough of the data to present in court in a legal setting, with the evidence has been partially destroyed now, then that means there's only one court left, and that's a military court. And evidence can be held and presented in a military court quite differently. There's a certain island where they just freighted in the finishing touches for 2 courtrooms. All of that built off-site. In mid-October, those courtrooms will be fully assembled and ready to start business. The evidence room was just finished a few months ago.
Wow.
For all the evidence to be viewed in a classified setting by the attorneys. A hospital, $200 million. $100 million to build it and $100 million to outfit it, that specializes in geriatric patients. Don't pull the covers back. We don't want to see it. Okay. And there's not going to be any mischief going on in this prison. Okay. Nobody's sneaking over to somebody else's bunk. Okay. Even if they do like Michael. Okay. Michael's going to have to stay in his own room. There's no mischief going over to any next door rooms. Okay. So, and he won't be in the women's section. So, there's something coming. It's not years away. It's almost here.
Wow.
And when it happens, the full stop that happens, even a 10-day stop all the communications, it's not 10 days, no power. There may be some limited spots where the grid's off for some reason. But the communications will be down. They've got to make some changes on the cell phone stuff to protect people. And all the bad guys going to be able to communicate what's going on. If you got your satellite phone and you think you're safe, Space Force isn't about outer space. It's about digital space. And all that stuff going off the satellites is not isolated. It can be turned off too. If we want it on, we can leave it on. Want it off, it can be off. Dramas are afoot. And when they hit, it's going to be relatively instant and dramatic. And the 17th book of the Bible is Esther. Esther's about to flip the reversal, the boomerang, as Roseanne Barr likes to say it. Something is coming. You can feel it in the night. It's in my movie, The Call, The Making of a Perfect Day.
I love that movie.
Yes, it's a fantastic, fun movie. And,
I would have liked to have been your co-pilot.
Well, I will tell you this. it was a very platonic relationship with my co-pilot, and only really over the last year did we decide that we liked each other enough that I asked her to marry me. So somewhere in here we'll be getting married, and right now I'm too in the thick of the fight to slow down. Although she was complaining the other day that I needed to focus. I am focused. Well, no, on other stuff. Part of the problem is that we got to get this bullfight over, and because it's messing with my love life. Okay, so sex. Okay,
just don't pull the covers down.
Yeah. No, ours wouldn't be quite as bad as the next ones, but anyway, I'm not quite geriatric yet, fortunately.
Well, congratulations. This is amazing news. So we're happy for you. And everyone in the chat saying congratulations as well.
Yes, very much so.
Well, I will tell you this. I mean, I'm actually not kidding. We were very all business, and it was not something that was anything I was, focused on or anything. But after traveling cross country, I'm probably the only person in American history. I'm actually not kidding. The only person in American history that's ever driven an Aston Martin coast to coast, and back again, especially for sure.
You do know that's the co-pilot I was talking about, right? Riding in your Aston.
The thing about the Aston is that most guys actually. The Aston has a F1 transmission. It's out of a Ferrari F1. And so the clutch is gone on mine. And I don't have that many miles on it. It's only got like 27,000 miles on it. And just that one trip, I think I put 8,000 miles on the car. Oh. And so the clutches are kind of built for racing and all that. Just the clutch replacement on that car is like $20,000. The clutch itself, I think, was $16,000. The replacement was like $4,000.
No,
so,
that's a pretty penny.
Yeah, it's I'm like, really, come on, man, really? And
seriously,
it's just the way it is. But anyway, so that's why people don't do that kind of thing with them. They're great fun cars, but that's why I see a lot of these amazing supercars. And in fact, when I got the insurance on that car, I actually had to prove to the insurance company that I had other cars and the history of driving them that had that horsepower to weight ratio. And because it's a special classification on that car. Amazingly, like my Bentleys, two of them have more horsepower than the Aston does, but they're much heavier. And so they don't quite hit that category, even though as far as I'm concerned, they're even faster. Like the Bentley Continental has a top speed of 205 miles an hour, 194 with the top down. The Aston's only down there at like 190. And, and I don't think I'd push it that far. It's not laid out as well as the Bentley is for, you get the Bentley up there, 170, 180 miles an hour, and it's just rock solid. I mean, it's just like driving down the freeway, relaxed.
Wow,
you get the Aston up there past about 150, 160, and you're in a much lighter car. And it doesn't have the same handling characteristics like that. On a track or something with a driver that knows exactly what they're doing, you'd be okay, but you'd be worried about sliding it off somewhere. Like the Bentley Continental, that's all-wheel drive. I kid people, if the mob showed up, they'd be driving like a Lincoln or a Caddy, it'd be rear wheel drive. It'd have half the horsepower. And probably weigh 5,500 pounds. Bentley weighs 6,200 pounds, all wheel drive. And I got them beat by double the horsepower. Probably another 70 miles per hour on the top speed. So I'd be toying with them. Come on, catch up. I'd be like the Matador, slowing down. Okay, come on, are you ready? Come on, step on it. Okay, come on, let's go. More. But anyway, no. I'm easy to get diverted. Jennifer Mack is a wonderful gal. She co-piloted with me on that, and we did the movie together. And really, she did the editing amazing. I've had real big names, biggest of the big names in the movie world that have watched The Called and said, that's one of them that's probably the biggest name in Hollywood movies ever, said that was the best independent film that he'd ever seen. So it's a fun film. If you haven't seen it, you can go over and see it at 107daily.com, and that's the editor's cut that Jen went through and just fixed a couple little things here and there. And then we showed it. We showed it in Vegas when I was showing the Sound of Freedom movie that Jim Caviezel made, and some of the other theaters around the country. But in Vegas, when we had people flew in to see that, we rented separate theaters, and we showed The Called, Makings of the Perfect Day, the day before. And then Jim couldn't come in for the day of the Sound of Freedom, or for the day that The Called was the day before. So we re-rented the theaters, and we had another completely full place for another showing. So I think we showed it 5 times total over a 3-day period, and probably got seen in the theater by a couple thousand people. So it was very fun.
That's awesome.
Someone in the chat is saying that Mr. T's rally, he kept saying bullshit today. That goes along with your bull story. There's a common theme here. Lots of bull.
And people are asking, should they send you guys peaches for your wedding gift?
You know what the colors are going to be? Peaches and mint.
Oh, those are lovely colors together.
They are.
Yeah. Well, of course, I love my peachy mint ice cream and tea, and that's what you do. If they serve you impeachment, you make peachy mint.
That's awesome. I love it.
Jennifer grew up on a mint farm, and of course, I love my peaches. I had peaches and cream today, and it was spectacular. I really enjoyed the peaches and cream. Fresh, super sweet. They were so good. I've had them about 3 days in a row. And in fact, I was supposed to be in the VIP section there at that thing today, but I have some critical things that I'm doing over the next week or two. And so even though people got me in there, I had to bail. I was supposed to leave last night. And so I'll be at one of them here shortly, but I just couldn't break free this time. So, but I got to tell you, anybody that thinks within kind of our crowd here, this circle that you have in your show tonight, I think people might be under the impression that things are more fait accompli, we got this and everything else. There's still danger. To have the nerve to step into the ring with a raging bull like this, and then to get right down nose to nose, stare it down, you're talking about a very unpredictable, dangerous animal. And that is the deep state. They're capable literally at this point of anything. It's a life and death battle. Who knows what they may have tried to, hold back that they could use. And they're not just limited here to America. They're all over the planet. This is a very, very, very dangerous crowd that we're engaging. And it is a life and death battle. And they know that. So even from the bullfighter's standpoint, the matador, if he tries to take the kill shot before the head is down sufficiently, before the shoulder blades have widened out, he could miss the shot. You have to come in so close to get that kill shot in. And if you're just a little bit out of sync, a little out of step, a hoof catches you on the foot. They're wearing essentially tennis shoes out there. It's almost ballerina slippers out there because they have to be so nimble and able to move rapidly and then shield their movements from the bull with the cape. And, you're not out there in boots. You have to be able to move very rapidly and deftly. And it's a magic act. It's somewhere between ballet and magic in the deceptions, in the illusion, even to this raging bull animal. And I have total respect for the man that would step into harm's way like that, put it all on the line over these last many years. People think, oh, he's fine. He's got all the money in the world. He'll do fine. They'll protect him, etc. No, if they can get a horn in the right spot, if they could break him, kill him, damage the people around him, they wouldn't have the tiniest second thought. They're totally wild, out of their mind. And then in order to get them close enough to be able to take him out, we have had to see this process of exposure and weakening and the head going lower and lower. This is far more complex than most people from the stands can even understand or see. And by the way, in the ring, the heat of the air coming out of the nostrils as the bull is getting exhausted. But every charge, remember adrenaline, what adrenaline can do. I had a friend who had a motorcycle accident and his son was on his motorcycle with him. And it was a big old Harley, 1500cc Harley, big, huge bike. And the bike was laying on his son, still running, and the tire was turning. And people that saw this, who were in a car right beside it, said it was incomprehensible what they saw. The dad, when he gathered himself just a second and then saw what the situation was with his son, who was in his early teens, they were just running an errand down the street to pick up the son's girlfriend or something, and she had a car and was going to drive back to the farm. The dad went over, he literally picked the bike up like he was Samson and threw the bike about 6 feet away.
Wow.
And the people saw this, they looked at it later, and the police officer couldn't even believe what they were trying to describe, but you could see the marks on the concrete because the bike wasn't where it stopped. It had a broken front wheel area, and it gouged into the pavement. And so when you looked at where the bike was, and then the people said, no, I mean, he picked the bike up and threw it. That's what adrenaline can do. And this is a bike probably weighed 800-900 pounds.
But this is also
and the dad was a
something
big guy
that we need to do for our children. This is a good story for everyone to start doing for the children as well.
You know what's going through my mind when you're talking about this is when Mr. T was talking about, what's his name, Pencil Neck.
Mike Pence.
No.
Or whatever.
No, that
Pence.
wasn't Pence.
Isn't that Pencil Neck?
No. Schumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are we talking I mean, I'd like your thoughts on this, if you can even say, are we dealing with more than just humans?
Well, I think in this context, there's no need to get too far off the beaten path. Look, within the context of the Eve and Satan Lucifer the Devil story, which is open to interpretation, and I get that. We don't have to get too far off the beaten path on that. It's interesting. It doesn't matter what we believe. It only matters what they believe. Belief is the driver of action. And so this crowd that we're fighting, in many cases, they believe that they're descendants of Cain. And therefore, and that Cain was the product of a relationship between Eve and Satan, Lucifer the devil, excuse me, little yawn there. Satan, Lucifer the devil. And so they're more than human because they have the reptile DNA, whatever in them. I think it's a very arguable thing. Is that true or not? Won't get any argument from me whether or not it's a myth or truth. It doesn't, at the end of the day, truly matter. Some of the people on the planet, especially the kings and queens of the earth, believe that they are, in fact, truly physical descendants of Satan, Lucifer, the devil, and that there is a difference in their DNA. And in fact, when I dealt with someone from a very specific family, one of the things that we dealt with, this is, 40 years ago, he died very mysteriously with his feet still touching the floor and was hung. And but what we were looking at was for something in the blood that was actually different. And so other people talk about it as third strand DNA. Other things, it's actually not accurate. It's slightly different. We did find that we were looking for. It wasn't what we thought we were going to find, but we found what we were looking for, and it was. It's still one of those things makes the hair go up in the back of my neck just thinking about it now. It has to do with even the timing of the rituals and all sorts of things. In fact, I just had a discussion about a particular location where they're watching a phenomena, and I spent time over about 3 days with several of the guys working through the basics of what a testing program would be, looking for certain markers at this location that would indicate why there was this activity there. And so we'll see what comes of that. They wanted to write the protocols for financing a research project, and so I helped them kind of design out what that would have to look for, and in mapping that in the most rudimentary way. If they get to first base, then I'll go through and help write very precise series of protocols. But for a proposal paper, you don't need the same thing. But there is something there that's very unusual. It's not a third strand in the DNA in the way that some people would like to write it. It's something else, but still something very real, tangible. It's not voodoo or mysterious in the sense that you can't repeat it or see it. It's there. So is there some of those bloodlines, if you will, right to rule by blood, that may have some of the family members in various positions of authority and stuff like that out through government and corporations and places, the university system, et cetera, to control mankind, if you will. Very plausible, yeah. Even if it's just a club, an organization, they have a certain belief, even if the belief is fraudulent, wrong. The devil's the father of lies. So they believe lies that their father, the devil, has spread. but it has consequences to the rest of us because belief is the driver of action. I said that in some articles I wrote decades ago. It's still accurate. People do certain things because they believe a certain way. That's why you make a lot of the decisions in your life, beliefs. And they believe that they're children of Satan, loose for the devil. They believe the God in heaven is trying to keep knowledge from them, and therefore they're justified to align themselves because their father, Satan, the devil, is trying to free them from, the lack of knowledge of what's really going on. And that's mean, awful, horrible, whatever. So that's kind of their, in a generic, rapid thumbnail way, what forces them, drives them, causes them to do certain things. In the course of it, they believe that those that aren't of the same belief or genetics as they are, that we're merely human. They believe that they're more than human, and that makes it okay for them to do what they do. In fact, in the old Planet of the Apes movies, and the more modern one too, actually, in their way of belief, they believe that they fell to Earth, that they were the ones on the spaceship, and they landed on a planet of apes, and that's the rest of the unwashed, the rest of us. And so it's really their story.
Planet of the Apes.
Say again, yeah.
Planet of the Apes movies, yeah.
Yeah. So the apes are the rest of us. We're the unwashed. And they're the ones with the higher knowledge, the ancient history, the technology that have had to deal with us with our arcane beliefs and ideas and everything else.
Well, heaven forbid they share or teach. I mean, that's pretty arrogant.
Well, I mean, it's a belief system. So, you have all sorts of schools that are based in the beliefs of the parents, and they've got their schools and their beliefs, and they believe that they have the right to operate society and to, that they're have a role, and we're the unwashed masses. So, but within all of this, let me just say this. In the Baal Moloch story, which goes to this exact thing, what is the history of Baal? Baal was this god who demanded that his followers sacrifice children to him. So people in Canaan land, and which later became Israel, would bring their babies up on the mountain and would sacrifice children to Baal in order to have protection through the rest of the year, to get good crops, to get safety. And so they would sacrifice. And the way that the child was sacrificed in the Bible, it describes it, says that they made their children to pass through the fire. That's a very, Protestant way of describing it. It's a very clean, simple, made their children to pass through the fire. Oh, okay. So like they had a candle over the table and they just made them pass over the top of the candle. No. The altar of Baal was a huge a metal idol. And it had compartments in the belly that could be opened up with an iron rod. And it had arms outstretched that would move on pivots. And we have lots of art, even from that era, describing and showing in writings what this idol look like? And so the arms would be outstretched, and then they would fold in on hinges, and the doors into this belly were open. And literally, the parent would give the child to a high priest, and then the priest would take it over, and this idol was red hot because it had hot coals in the lower part of the belly of this idol, and it was roasting hot. There would be a fire in front of it, and the priest would place the baby, no doubt screaming and crying, in the arms of Baal, these molten red hot arms. And then as the baby is screaming, it would be moved with these mechanical arms back, and the baby dropped into this shelf area that would capture the child, and then it would be closed up into that compartment. And you would hear the screams until it was extinguished. And that was this sacrifice of the child to their idol, their god. And Baal was never satisfied. And the children would be continued to be sacrificed in this way. And in the way that these priests function, they were mimicking of what goes on in the temple. In the temple of God, when the sacrifices are brought and given to the high priest, they take them and offer them to God. They were also made a burnt sacrifice, and then the meat from those offerings was eaten by the priests, and then anything left over was burned completely in the fire. So the priests would eat the sacrifice, whether it was cows or lambs or goats or whatever that was offered, birds, etc. And then anything that wasn't eaten was completely burned. So the term cannibal came from these priests who ate these the flesh of these babies that were offered to Baal, cannibal, and the food for Baal went to the priests, and eating human flesh. Those ceremonies were conducted on the hills around Jerusalem and through the Holy Land before and after the Israelites arrived. The people didn't completely extinguish that religion when they arrived. And so they would hold at certain festival dates, they would have a bonfire or a bone fire up on the hills, and you could see it. And then where the idol was, at certain times, the people would have to bring their children, and every family was required periodically to make a child sacrifice in order to have peace with Baal and have, protection, supply, and prosperity, etc. The place in the Bible where the most important story related to that comes from is in Elijah. And so Elijah, God was obviously pissed in heaven that his people were involved in this horrid evil action. And so Elijah declared a drought, said what God told him to say, and pronounced a drought on the land. And it didn't rain for 3.5 years. And their crops aren't working, everything else here, they're offering more kids. They're even more intently coming to Baal to trying and break this drought. And the people are, they're dying, they're starving to death. And then Elijah, when they're crying to Elijah that he should break the drought, stop the drought, put an end to this, they're acknowledging that he had some power from God, but he wouldn't stop, and Baal wasn't able to stop it. He's like, well, just go back to Baal. He can make it rain again. No, you pronounce the drought. You have to stop it. Well, go talk to Baal. If he's such a big, tough God, go make it happen. Why talk to me? I'm just talking. And so then he says, okay. Tell you what, why don't you guys make a sacrifice fire for Baal, like you always do, and I'll make a sacrifice fire. Yeah, okay. Well, where are we going to do it? It's like when we had the negotiations at the Vietnam War. Is it a long square table, rectangle for the negotiations, or is it a round table? And they spent a year just arguing over the shape of the table. It sounds bizarre and ridiculous, but guys every day, and they're arguing over the shape of the table because it has philosophical meaning and a representation of certain things and all that. So they have to argue over the shape of the table. So guys from that era will remember that I'm speaking truth there. It was painful. So they're arguing. The question is, are we going to put we're going to do this altar sacrifice thing down by the temple in Jerusalem, where God's strong, where Elijah might have chosen it? Or are we going to do it on the mountain where Baal is strong? And the decision is, go ahead and build it up the mountain. Elijah's not concerned. It's the gates of hell. It's a hellish place where people are being sacrificed alive, young children sacrificed alive, and then cannibalized, eaten, okay, by these priests of Baal, these bloodthirsty priests of Baal. Where are you going to do this big ceremony? Well, let's do it up on the mountain where everybody can see. Invite everybody up on the mountain. Why is the mountain so important to these principalities, to these demons, to these monsters? Why
is
the
that?
high places?
Why?
Because you remember that archway that Hillary wanted to do a speech in 2016, and they were going to put it up in New York, and she was going to do a speech before the election in 2016 in this archway. And the archway was a perfect copy, made in foam, made via 3D imaging of the original archway, which was at the city of Baal in Syria. And it came from the base of Mount Hermon. And so ISIS had blown up the archway. And so this archway, they took this perfect 3D picture, super high resolution. And then they made an exact copy out of foam with every nick, every twist, everything. And then shortly thereafter, ISIS blew it up because, they didn't want any religious things there except for Muhammad or whatever. The reality is that from a cult perspective, the cults believe that if they take certain things and duplicate them correctly, they can use the same energy at multiple places at the same time. So instead of just having one archway there in Syria, they could make perfect copies of it, destroy that archway or gateway, because an arch in this occult belief system is a gateway between the spiritual world and the physical world. It's a gateway for demons to enter this world. It's a gateway for people to go to the demonic world and interact in the spirit realm. And you can pass either way. What was the symbology? Because the Arch of Baal that was there is at the entrance to the destroyed, smashed to smithereens, burned city of Baal, which was at the base of Mount Hermon. And the only thing left was the Arch of Baal, which was the entrance to that city. Through all these decades, somebody left that there so everybody will remember that's the place. Okay? So What's the significance of the city of Baal? How did it get there? What was the purpose of it? Baal is located, the city of Baal was located at the base of Mount Hermon. Today, the highest location of a World Heritage Site on planet Earth is at the top of Mount Hermon, because it's the place that in myth and legend, the 200 fell to earth. God men fell to earth at the top of Mount Hermon. So up there, like 800 feet above sea level, at the top of this mountain is an altar area, a ceremonial site. It's the highest World Heritage Site on planet Earth. And at the bottom of that, that's where the city of Baal is at. And that's where these God men, the 200 who fell from heaven, who were, angelic in nature, some nice and some mean, some better and some more wicked. But they met the people there. And in order for the people not to be terrorized, hurt, damaged by them, they had to come and make periodic offerings to them of children. That's the history of the city of Baal. And they would have to go through the archway opening to the city, to that other world, to do that. At some point in history, the humans got so pissed that they went there and completely destroyed that city and just left the archway so everybody could see where it was at, know what this is all about, until ISIS blew it up. And Hillary wanted to speak in the presidential race at the archway, in the archway that had been reproduced, a copy of which they were bringing to America, and American patriots went out of their mind, pissed off. No effing way do we want that monstrosity dedicated to human sacrifice, to child sacrifice on our soil. And then the audacity of Hillary to want to speak in it, knowing that history.
Wow.
Okay, and then we find out in that same time period, WikiLeaks, and what's in there? Spirit cooking, simulating eating humans like cake, and throwing all sorts of bodily fluids on the wall as though it's art with Maria Abramovich, that bitch who's actually a guy. The art director for Antarctica? What kind of bullshit is that? So now you have to bring all these things that I've mentioned to you together. You see, on this hillside above Jerusalem, in Israel, up on that hill, the people of Israel from that region of the country came up there, and that's where Elijah went. In this big challenge, who's in charge here? Who's going to win the day? Who actually can call out to God and make something happen? Yeah, 3.5 years, you're sacrificing children, you're worshiping Baal, you got a drought. Just talk to Baal about it. He'll take care of you. Baal, whatever you want to call him, Moloch, whatever that guy is that wants you to sacrifice your babies. Those priests, just get them to say the right magic words to make rain come. Come on. No, you're the one that said it. So you got to fix this, Elijah. You got to fix this. Okay, well, let's have a contest. We'll do it on your ground where you're tougher. Okay, we'll do it right there at Baal's front door. We'll do it there at the gates of hell, up on top of the hill. And he invites all the people of the region up there. They go up there on this appointed day. And no doubt that the Baal worshipers, being sneaky assholes like they are, had hidden fireworks. They went over to the Indian reservation. They got some hidden fireworks, some M80s, some sparklers, some bottle rockets. And they hid them in the bottom of the pile, okay? That's what happened. Just take my word for it. But something wasn't working right when they're out there and they're making all their sacrifices, and they're killing animals, and they're cutting their arms, and they're bleeding all over their altar, and they're calling out to Baal to take their sacrifice and burn it up. Because that's the challenge. Who can make their God receive a sacrifice on their altar at just the right time and just the right way? And it wouldn't even surprise me, although it doesn't say it in the scriptures, but some of these worshipers of Baal, they've been offering babies all along. They might have even had some of their children that they sacrificed in this altar. The scripture does not say that. But through the course of the day, Elijah's laughing at them. Come on, is your God asleep? I mean, is he still screwing his fourth wife? What's going on? Okay. Is he having breakfast? Elijah's literally mocking them. He's mocking them because nothing's happening. Now, how do I know there was fireworks in there? At the end of the day, Elijah says, okay, man, I'm getting tired. It's hot out here. I'm exhausted. You guys, nothing's happening over there. So let's go ahead and light mine off. I'll pray to God and have him just, bring fire down from heaven and take the sacrifice, and we'll just end this thing. Well, now the Baal worshipers, they're all upset. No. Hold on. They got to inspect his sacrifice for all the wood. Make sure that it's, there's nothing secret in there. Why? Because they know what they were doing. It didn't work. Something was broken. They accused Elijah of doing what they'd done. They're looking for the secret pyrotechnics. Had they gotten their altar working, they'd have grabbed Elijah and all of Elijah's acolytes, and they'd have thrown them on the fire. Our God's tougher. You're a liar. You're full of shit. And they'd have thrown them on there. And remember, when the day started, I can just see it. It's the way these guys are. They're Hollywood, okay? When they're coming up the hill, they got their head high, their horns high. They got all their ceremonial masks. They got, Baal with the horn hat. They were selling them at the concession stand down at the bottom. Everybody's got their Baal hat on their head. I'm an official Baal worshiper. I'm all in with you, Baal, and we've sacrificed our kids to you. And so go get this Elijah guy and stop this drought, okay? And take the offering. And some of the Elijah people are a little more timid. They don't kind of want to be seen. They're trying to blend in the crowd. But, they're kind of with Elijah. But he's being pretty audacious, but we'll hang with him because, we never wanted to sacrifice our kids. We didn't get the, whatever. We're not going to have our DNA changed. But they're also being a little cagey. So Elijah says, whoa, okay. I know you think I got pyrotechnics in my altar thing, and there's something sneaky, okay? I mean, we have been in the drought for 3.5 years. Any wood that still had any moisture left in it at all, that wasn't in that region. It's all drier than bone dry. So, but just to be on the safe side, okay. I know water's precious, but why don't you Baal guys run down the hill, get some water, and come up here and douse my fire so that you're satisfied that I don't have any sneaky tricks in there. Go ahead and pour water in it. So they all run down the hill. They get buckets of water. They run back up the hill. They pour water on the altar for Elijah. Elijah's over there. Okay, yeah, all right. They've been cutting themselves all day. There's blood running down their cheeks. They haven't had enough to drink all day. They're in the middle of a drought, so there's not enough water to go around as it is. They've been sweating in the hot sun. And then, they get through putting it on there. Elijah walks over. He grabs a couple little tinders. This is still a little dry inside, don't you think? What do you think? You think that's, my God, it's pretty tough. You better water it down a little more just to be on the safe side. And just check and make sure. You see any sparklers down there? Do you see a bottle rocket or anything? Just in case I hit it in there, made it look like wood. So the Baal worshipers, oh yeah, no, we're not taking a chance with you. We know you cheat. Okay? We cheated. Why wouldn't you? They run back down the hill. They grab more water. They run back up the hill. Get the altar all wet again. Elijah goes over, he looks at it. Gosh, you guys are a little slow. While you were running down the hill and back up, it's so hot here, all the water evaporated. You better run faster. Go get some more water and douse this thing for real. Come on, man. What are you thinking? They were all haughty when they got up there. Now they got sweat under the armpits in their best uniform. I'm the official Baal, walker guy. It's like Halloween. I got all my amulets and the earrings and everything. Got my body paint on, and the body paint's starting to melt, and it's starting to look a little bit. The eyeliner isn't working as good as it did to the beginning of the day. They don't look quite as official as great Baal worshipers. And Elijah's, yeah, okay, whatever. Let's get some more. Let's move it on. Because, man, the sun's starting to get down. You don't want to give God any advantage, by letting it go to sunset. Sun might be even hotter over there. It looks red sometimes at sunset. So they run down 7 times. They wet down Elijah's altar. Now they're really looking disheveled. They got hairs hanging every which way, sweat all over the place. Head down. The pride that they had in the morning at the beginning of the day, the haughtiness, the angst, the arrogance towards Elijah and all of his people. It's kind of worn out of them. And they're standing there. Okay, Elijah, let's see you start this sucker on fire now. There's water all over in the bottom of the fire pit. All the wood's good and wet. If there was any fireworks in there, it's never going to light now. Never happen. You can stick all the best Indian fireworks stand in there, but the whole stand in there is not going anywhere because there's too much water. Elijah looks up to heaven, says a brief prayer, offers the sacrifice to God, and God sends down a nuclear lightning bolt. It's so hot that there's a place that they actually believe was that location. And the reason they think it's the location that's occurred is because the sand is fused like glass, like you get from a nuclear explosion. Okay? And the only way they really can kind of account for it is that might have been the spot that God, kind of like the Georgia Guidestones. Okay. Oh yeah, there you go. That's I took care of that one. Let's wipe out 13 out of 14 people on the planet everywhere. Yeah, let's put that in stone because it's going to last forever. Next. Oh, Washington Monument. Next. That's something to care for. So when this happens, imagine all these people on the hillside watching this. There's Elijah and his couple acolytes. They weren't popular. There wasn't a whole bunch. They'd fallen out of favor. It's just him and a few in his motley crew, and all these Baal guys with all their Hollywood, all the TV anchors love these guys, okay? They're the best. Everybody knows they've got all the magic power. They know just the right way to say stuff and do stuff. Enough so that they sold the crowd so well on their power, their strength. Because we come from those that fell at Mount Hermon, the 200 gods. And this is an ancient ritual. You bring your children and you're protected. The gods will protect you. It's even going on today. It's the UN. The UN's only existed since the late 40s. And their highest heritage site on planet Earth is at the top of Mount Hermon, commemorating the 200 that fell to Earth. Hillary wanted the Arch of Baal to be the place she gave her most important speech she was going to win the presidency and dedicate it all to her God. She's a witch. She's a member of the Winged Coven. She doesn't even hide it.
Wait.
She's a Baal worshiper, a Moloch worshiper. Okay? And when the people saw who was really God, and it was the God of Elijah, not the God of these Baal worshipers, after the altar was completely doused, all hope of lighting it on fire, except by a nuclear blast, was gone, and God obliged them and did a nuclear blast. Takes the whole thing, probably had a mushroom cloud over the top of it. What did the people do after the instantaneous shock wore off? They were so pissed. They were so aggrieved, because imagine all day while those Baal worshipers were cutting themselves and screaming and following all the right formulaic rituals, even potentially sacrificing some children themselves that day, because that was their practice.
Jesus.
At the end of all that, they realized their eyes were opened. They'd been deceived. They believed a magic spell. They believed all their lying, conniving, ritual plans and ideas. Those priests who walked around with their head up high, with their robes swaying in the wind, and their staffs, so powerful, so self-important. And Elijah had shown them for the frauds they were.
Yes.
With their mascara running, with their robes all full of sweat. Their God didn't show up because he doesn't rule and reign like the God in heaven. And the people on the mountain turned on those high priests and all those super involved people with the horns on their head still, their magic makeup. You know, I got the furry jacket on sale over at Ball World, and I am like the best Baal worshiper in the whole neighborhood. They turned on all of them and killed them, every single one. Not a single one came off that mountain alive, and threw their bones on the fire heap.
Amazing story
When they
ever.
came down off that mountain that day, Baal, the bull that fell from heaven like lightning, had been destroyed. In this great arena that we live in today, all the stands in a bullfight are vibrating. When you're at a bullfight, it's vibrating because the fans are either with the matador or the bull. If the matador isn't taunting the bull, keeping the bull moving, causing the bull to use its last ounce of strength and adrenaline to do the fight, getting in as close as he can in order to get the kill shot in time before the final horn sounds. If he can't get the bull to charge, he can't get the kill shot in. We have a matador with nerves of steel, doing the dance, getting right down on bended knee in front of the bull, eyeball to eyeball, and the sword for the kill shot, waiting. We're moments away from an incident, a spectacle, global in nature, that hasn't been seen in thousands of years. And you get to live to see it. And I hope everybody in this audience appreciates the magnitude of the spectacle that's about to take place in America in your lifetime. and remember every detail so you can recount it to your children and your children's children. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be epic. That was an amazing story, how it ties everything in together. And
From the very beginning of what he started was saying.
Mm-hmm. And with the Matador, if he's down on his knees, looking at him eye to eye, that's where we come in.
How so?
At his knees,
To
on a knee,
80.
ready to get up and go to battle, but taunting that bull, charge me, charge me, charge me, charge me, charge me, charge me. I dare you, charge me.
We have all the handkerchiefs, remember? In the very beginning? The crowd has the handkerchiefs to help.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that's where we come
Get
in.
in the fight. Have some fun. Yeah. Can you imagine being right there nose to nose with the bull, feeling the hot breath, the snorts, the dust,
No.
the bull
No.
pawing at the dirt?
You
And
have
remember,
to be healthy and
ahead.
agile to be able to do that.
yeah.
Because if you're not, and you try to get out of the way,
I doubt you're a vegetarian.
no.
Yeah, yeah. Paul said, you got to be able to eat meat, of the meatier parts to understand Scripture, not be on the pablum, the baby's milk. To have your strength to do whatever. And I just had a beautiful birthday dinner with a very good friend who's a vegan. And we had an amazing vegan dinner in Las Vegas at, I got to think of the name of the restaurant, right there in West Vegas. It was fantastic and beautiful. And then Jennifer Mack, she's actually a raw food chef.
Oh, wow.
No meat. So she's actually was trained in Asia and makes some just stunning meals. And she'll be doing a new book with some of her current book, and but done with the pictures and all that. And so she's selling her current book out right now, and I think there's about 12 or 1,500 copies left. And so we've been doing a package over at thejennifermack.com on my book and her book and a few other things. And there's a really cool package that she just posted today. I signed a bunch of books, and so she's got some of those for a package that she'll have out for the next week or two or three, however long they last. And it's hard for me because I have a hard time stopping to sign the books. I take a little more time sometimes than others, but I usually sign them in multiple places. There's also a great package over at 107 Daily, my platform. And we're getting ready for the storm to be out here shortly. And so we're making room. They take, huge amount of space with these pallets of books. And so we had to make some space so those can come in and go out, and that'll be ready shortly also.
Nice.
So anyway, fun stuff. Her next book will probably be sometime next year, but this first edition of hers is pretty cool. And so I do get vegan, and there's people in our audience. I do get it. And actually, we do eat too much meat here to be healthy. I probably eat more than anybody. But so I, even though I oftentimes show that I'm eating meat, I actually eat a lot of vegetables. Love the good raw vegetables like that, and so love soups with vegetables in them.
Oh, I love soup. I'm such a soup fan.
Yep. So, but anyway, I hope that helps your audience. We're an amazing moment in time. This is an amazing era in history. Savor every second of it. There's a lot of people that aren't taking the time to soak in what you're seeing, what's happening, even to appreciate the level of sophistication in the preparation up to this exact moment for what has to happen in the fight next. It's an astonishing spectacle, and you're going to want to remember these things so you can recount them over time after the fact. I have things all through my life that are places and moments and people, and a lot of times I'll chew on it a bit more and remember some of the great stuff and some that aren't with us anymore, and wish you could do more to have been in that moment even more fully, or moments, because they're gone and they're in the history books. Don't let this get away from you. Enjoy, savor, even the pieces that may be a little more bitter, more spicy, all those flavors. This is a moment in history that 1,000 years from now, people will recount like I just recounted what happened with Elijah and other things. It may get lost over time trying to just get the story out. And you who are living it can appreciate every nuance of flavor and sweat and beauty and the angst best to those that won't actually have been here, children generations removed from now. Enjoy it, savor it, pass it on.
So can you take a few questions?
I'm pretty tight. I've got a pretty long drive ahead of me, but I'll take a couple quick questions, and I gotta get flying. I've got about 17 hours of driving here to do, so I gotta move through.
Okay. Well, someone was asking.
Go ahead.
Someone was asking how do you recommend that we prepare if we need to?
Everybody's situation's different. What somebody does in North Dakota versus Texas versus New York or California, it's all a little different. And the only thing I can tell you is that that's where prayer is required. It's a very personal thing. It's easy to find a guru to tell you what to do. There's plenty of people with all sorts of advice, but that doesn't mean that they actually really are that, knowledgeable on all the minutiae of your situation. Do you have children? Do you have grandparents? Do you have a neighbor that you take care of that can't take care of his or herself? Do you have animals? How long do you expect this to last? Personally, in order to save America, the cure can't be worse than the disease. We're not going to wipe out the American people. We're trying to save them. What will that entail? If you can envision a short, sharp situation to rein things in and get them halfway under control, 10 days or so. Over time, I don't think this gets solved instantaneously. We wake up on the other side, if I'm correct, and we don't have the election on time, then you can do your own mental gymnastics. What would the world be like in America if you don't have the election on time? What kind of angst, turmoil, fights might be present, even coming up on a proposal like that? Is the 25th Amendment going to be in play? When would that get played? Is it sometime in October? If there's going to be charges and you're going to accuse somebody of trying to overthrow the government. What kind of drama would that, bring into the public for a spectacle? And the converse is, if you don't think that's going to happen and the election's going to come off on time, why would you do a thing? Maybe you don't believe any of that I just said has any relevance. It isn't true. It's bullshit. It's a nice story. I'm not going to argue with you. I could easily be very, very wrong. So, you could do nothing, or you could do a little something just in case, and then laugh at us all after the fact and say, well, that was dumb. I never really believed it, but I guess I got a little extra sugar or a couple extra gold and silver coins, and they're still worth something. And like that, if things go truly wonky, you might look like a genius, even though you didn't believe anything in the first place. But after the fact, well, actually, there was a couple things you got right. Better than all of that, ask God. God's as serious as you are. The God in heaven that can send a lightning bolt down from space and a rod of God and pulverize the sand to where it's like glass at that location that was recorded, this great spectacle. If he's capable of doing that and then bringing the storm afterwards, you can probably figure out a way to take care of you. God's as serious as you are. A lot of other people wanted the drought to stop. Elijah is the one that was serious enough to speak it into existence in the first place and speak it out of existence in the second place because he believed God could do stuff. So get serious. God wants to take care of you. He doesn't want you, in desperation. But everybody in different places has different capabilities, resources, needs, responsibilities. You got to own whatever decisions you make. You can't blame it on me or somebody else. You get in there, you do your own analysis, you listen to some of the people, and then you make your decision with or without God's help. And by the way, people a lot of times they get frantic. They're like a fishbowl. I had somebody on the phone the other day. Well, I got to do this. Well, what about that? Well, what if? And so what do you think I should do? Well, yeah, but you should know what to do. So, well, I'm going to be here, but I might go there. But my dad's here, but my mom's there, but they don't necessarily like me. But my brother likes me, so I should go there. Shoot, I was tired just hearing all the stuff. I said, look, listen. You're like a fishbowl where the 5-year-old has the wooden spoon out and he's stirring up the fishbowl. There goes the castle. There goes the diver. There goes the fish, upside down and backwards. There goes the other fish. Okay? You got to set the fishbowl down, take the wooden spoon away from the kid, and let everything calm down and settle back down, figure out what to do. Okay? And you might have to rearrange a few things. Put the plant back in, put the castle upright, put the fake diver there with the thing swimming around. Let the fish calm back down, get their eyeballs screwed in straight again. You might need to take a deep breath. I'm telling you this soon enough that you have a little time. Is the rail strike for real over? Is there still some aspect that can come out? Is there trucking issues? Is there food issues? Do you have a special health situation? I have someone close to me that has special nutritional needs that they have to eat certain things because other stuff just irritates them to the moon and makes them just deathly ill. Mm-hmm. So they need some special food that's unique to them. Me, I can take flavored sawdust and I'm probably happy at some level. I like nice food, but I'm also pretty easy and I don't really have a pretty good constitution. I like nice stuff, but I also I've had to get by on less at times and stuff that wasn't quite exactly my favorite on the palate, but I made it. And I'm fortunate enough. I've been storing up. I could live off the fat of the land a little longer than most of you. So and some people think maybe that's a good idea actually. So what's your situation? I don't know. It's a personal thing between you, God, your spouse, your children. Are you just worried about you, or are you worried about your family, you're worried about your community. What makes sense? I do think there is some period of time where some of the availability of some things is choked back a bit. I actually personally think that after the election doesn't happen, if it doesn't, that you're in some kind of a military environment for a period of time. Is that a week or two or a month? I think it's probably better part of a year. We still have to have an election. We don't run military governments. That's not America. That's a banana republic. But we do have a military that does have an obligation to protect and to ensure honest elections and get us to a point in time where an honest election can be conducted. And that may not be overnight. Some people are going to have to go visit a desert island. You know, at Gitmo, their rainfall is almost zero on an annual basis. I mean, literally almost zero. So it is a desert island.
Jesus.
And Gilligan, they didn't make it out of there, okay? So at the end of the day, you know, you're going to have a lot of company there. It's going to be kind of wonky, but you know, they built piering, concrete piering, to be able to handle the FEMA ships, which could be used as prisoner housing at Gitmo also. And it's designed to be able to handle a Cat 5 hurricane and be safe and stable. So they built that. They've got marine helicopter pads there that can handle the Osprey. And the Osprey, without having to stop for gas, can fly all the way to Gitmo from South Carolina, which is an interesting place because I think some drama is about to happen in South Carolina. Let's see. So there's a lot in play here. Is the dollar going to be okay? Yeah, we actually saved the dollar in the course of this. All the destruction of the currency and everything else, that was somebody else's plan. Had Hillary won, you'd have had horrors in the financial market. You'd have had Bitcoin worth $3 million by now. You'd have had all sorts of things. You'd have had a nuclear event on U.S. soil, November 3rd, 2019. So there's lots of things that they wanted that didn't get a chance to happen. Is if you have your wealth denominated in fiat, whether it's digital fiat with money in the bank in a computer system, if it's paper fiat with lots of paper dollars, if it's crypto fiat, yeah, it's not very solid. The Constitution and the Bible itself call silver and gold money, U.S. minted coin. That's going to be for sure safe. Is there some blended thing with the dollars and the banking system and all that? You know, the banking system is really run out of Europe. So the question is, how vulnerable is our dollars to the international reserve system? Is there a need to get out of the way of that, or is the stock market going to survive? You know, the stock market, if you had interest rates going up, that's going to hurt the stock market. It's supposed to go up. You know, they're recommending 0.75 of a point next week. I think they're only going to raise it a half point, and the markets will respond positively. I have friends that say, no, they're going to raise it a full point to get ahead of inflation because it's coming like a monster. And I don't argue with them. Yeah, if they raised it a full point, that would cause the rail strike guys to maybe not want to sign that deal or vote it in because they're going to need more money than a 25% raise, because that would mean inflation's coming full steam, which it is. So, you know, do you have money in the markets that's exposed? You don't have much time. You need direction from God. You need to pray about it. I don't want to tell somebody what to do. But there's a number of players. I sent probably a a dozen people in the last 2 weeks to one of the people that I deal with who were making conversions to silver and gold coin because I think they have the best prices out there. Some of them were pretty large transactions. So, I'm pretty hesitant. As soon as you get into people's money, all of a sudden, well, you told me this, you told me that. No, I gave you some thoughts and ideas. You have to make your own decision and own it. And if you're going to trust those decisions to a guru, whatever you get, you made a decision, you own it. Mm-hmm. Ask God, pray hard, get it right, because you heard from him, not from a guru.
That's very true. That is very true.
So I want to just wrap this up by sharing a story that will bring some levity. My girlfriend shared this with me. So a man who lives in a desert area really needed rain for their crops. It's been dry for way too long. And he heard about this guy that knows how to bring the rain. And so he gave him a call. The guy says, yeah, sure, I'll come on out. And so he arrived there and he set up a circle of stones, disappeared for a little while, and then came back. And he expected this guy to go out there into these stones and do a rain dance. But what he did was, went into the stones, he stood there, he put his hands like this, he went like this, and put his hands down while his eyes were closed. He opens his eyes, he goes, okay, I'm hungry, let's go do lunch. And the guy said, well, that's it? He goes, yeah, I'm done. So they went and had lunch, and then the guy went home. A couple days later, maybe a week, he calls the guy up and he goes, it's raining. Oh, that's cool. What'd you do? He said, I felt the water. I could smell the water. My feet could feel the water. And that's all I did. So a couple weeks passed, he calls him again, he goes, it's still raining. Can you come make it stop? And he goes, well, we haven't figured that one out yet. True story. That was a true story.
How can you unfeel something once you feel it? Don't pull the covers off!
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, the only thing I will say is the things happen the way that I see them happening. You might actually get tired of winning. Take a deep breath. Be careful what you wish for. A lot of people have been waiting for this moment. Please, 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 please. Okay, when it gets here, don't complain that the waves are big and the top of them is foaming and the storm is really scary. It is going to be gripping. We have this. God's in charge, and wiping out all their sand castles is part of what has to happen. We're fighting for survival on planet Earth. Our enemies want us all dead. Dead, dead, dead. That's what the Georgia Guidestones were all about. Yeah. This isn't actually just a children's tale. This is a horror story. This is a James Bond film on steroids, and not a nice one.
Yeah.
So, Juan, just asking what it might look like to you for those 10 days of darkness that you mentioned.
Well, it's not a power outage. There might be a couple places it's a communications thing, and that's, so that we can operate without everybody knowing exactly what we're doing, is my read on this, my guess.
Okay.
So you're just going to be hunkering down. You're not going to the gas station to get gas because you're not going somewhere. The ATMs aren't working, so you don't have a reason to go somewhere. The EBS would be on, emergency broadcasting system. Everybody hold tight. You may very well have a Cuban Missile Crisis type of event. I've spoken of that for years. And the reason for that is because it causes the computer systems to scram, and the stuff that's in one group that's bad guys ends up being diverted over to the other group, the good guys, and they are able to take control of various systems. Remember, Space Command isn't about outer space. It's about cyberspace. And you can't run a modern Jeep without satellite GPS. Can't practically aim a gun without satellite communications. The reality is, once that power transfers, the command structure will be very clear. And those that may be in opposition to the guys that actually have 17th letter clearance, which, by the way, that's not a military clearance, that is a Department of Energy clearance, going all the way back to the research and development of the first atomic bomb. Those authorities are outside of the rest of the military system, and that's what this is all about. That's what those teams are all about. All these questions, all these hand wringing, and but why, how, who could have, I don't believe it, whatever. That's all going to get answered. Take a deep breath, relax, enjoy the show. And the show isn't about the deaths. It's not the deaths in Afghanistan. It's not the deaths from the medical monsters that have been foisted on people. The show is what's going to happen in Congress with this 25th Amendment dance. And take a deep breath. This is what it is. Let's get through it. Let's work together. Pray. Let's take care of each other. Shoulder up in this fight together so that we can win the day, take ground, hold our country, and start putting it back together again. Make America great again. Mm-hmm. Not in a haughty sense, not in the sense of, I got mine, too bad about you. But you have to first put your oxygen mask on, then help the person beside you, because you can't go unconscious because you'll get the other guy going. Right. Get your own oxygen mask on, then help the person beside you. We will get control of America. We will take it back from the monsters who have captured the helm of the ship. And then we will go out to the rest of the world, not to be our brother's keeper, but to be our brother's brother. We will go, we will help the rest of the world. This is a fight for planet Earth, which God gave to Adam and his seed, not to these Cainites, these Baal and Moloch worshipers. This is our planet. We're taking it back in the name of Jesus, by the blood of Christ. Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Beautiful. I was so grateful that you came on with us tonight.
Yeah, I enjoyed it tremendously. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping to get at least 8-10 hours under my belt. I've got to switch cars, and so I got to get a move on.
All right.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Juan, and keep those covers on.
Yeah. We don't want to, I don't want to scare anybody. So.
Drive safe.
All right, folks.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you
night,
so much.
sweetie.
All right.
Oops.
Probably not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Always go with the choice that scares you the most, because it's the choice that's going to help you grow.
Wow.
I can't do negative today. Positive vibes, positive vibes.
Hey, best friend. Wait. To the person seeing this, I know you're tired. I know you're fed up and so close to breaking. But remember, you have strength within you even when you feel weak. Keep fighting, best friend.